Hi everyone, Nicole Bowman here, and welcome to Live the Light. If you are brand new to the channel, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And for all of the returning subscribers and listeners, thank you so much for the likes and the support. I appreciate it a great deal. So I wanted to come to you with a very quick audio video that is really centered on a topic that comes up in readings that I do for a lot of clients. And it's definitely something that I've dealt with and experienced in my own life. And the topic is, and the conversation is about going through life and feeling unsupported. Not necessarily feeling like you have a support system of family or friends or colleagues or a network of people that maybe are really in your corner or have your back. And I wanted to share some thoughts on this that I'm guided to share with you because I think there's some important things to note. First and foremost, a lot of times as we're moving through this life, specifically if you are consciously walking a spiritual path, that's going to put you in places and spaces of isolation at time. Because sometimes it's through those spaces and places of isolation that you know the divine, that you know God, that you know yourself, that you come into a clearer, purer version of who you are. So number one, that's just sometimes a part of it. Sometimes that is just a part of walking a spiritual path, is that you have moments of solitude and isolation, because what it does is it allows you to trust yourself, and therefore in turn, it allows you to trust God. So a lot of that is really about being able to build a relationship with God, being able to build a relationship with the divine, being able to talk to God freely and openly and share your hopes and your fears and your joys and everything in between. Right. And sometimes it's not about necessarily sharing that with other people. It's about sharing that with the divine creator, the divine energy, and being able to build that relationship so you can better trust that relationship and in turn trust yourself. I would also say that in this world, the thing that we have to remember is that people are busy. And so just because someone loves you and cares about you, just because they may not necessarily be calling and checking in and doing all those things, it doesn't necessarily mean that folks don't care. It may simply mean that they have so many other things going on in their lives that they don't necessarily have the time to always step into or be involved in your life. And I think that, that's important to note. A lot of times when it comes to friends and friendships, specifically in adulthood, we have to make a conscious choice and decision to make room for them. And I think it's also important to understand that a lot of times those really close friends where, they almost feel like a spiritual twin, and you see them and they see you and you know each other like that. Those connections do exist, but those connections are not as common. It's just the people that you might go out and have a drink with, or you might go to a show with, or you might go to a party with. What I'm trying to say by sharing this information is to understand that those deep bosom buddy friends where you think you have a whole group of people, a lot of times it's typically just one, and there might be periods of time in your adult life where you really don't have any. And it's in those periods of time that you lean on God, that you talk to God, that if you are part of a spiritual or religious community, a church, a synagogue, a mosque, you read your holy books, you go into prayer. If you're a magical practitioner, you go into magical practice. You talk to the divine, you talk to your spirit, you build that energy so that you are supported by those unseen forces that can guide your way when you don't necessarily have all the human connection that you are wanting. So I'm just saying that to say that, as we move into adulthood, as I said before, sometimes those friendships and that socializing and things of that nature, as we begin to have kids, as we begin to get married, as we begin to have parents that are aging and things are changing, you may not always have those day-to-day connections, with other people. You may not always have those close bosom buddy friendships and relationships with other people. But at the end of the day, you always have yourself and you always have God. And one of the things that I've learned through walking the path that I've walked is, number one, I always land on my feet. I'm always going to be okay. Now, things may not turn out exactly the way I want, when I want, as I want. But at the end of the day, they always work out. And what I've always seen through it all is that God has always had my back. And I want to share that with you because God has your back too. The Great Spirit has your back too. Even if you feel like you don't have friends, even if you don't feel like you have people in your corner, there is a divine energy that is in your corner that is always there for you. And all you simply have to do is talk to that energy, speak to that energy, pour your heart out to that energy, write songs, write poems, create artwork inspired by that energy. You know, look back on your life and think about all the things you came through. That alone should let you know that you have been supported, even if you don't feel supported. You know, and sometimes, as I said before, the support does not come through other people or outside people. Sometimes the support is simply what you give to yourself and the faith you have in the divine, and that's what carries you through. So, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You know, you can't always rely on other people because everybody has their own stuff going on. And, you know, I've experienced this in my own life, and I've had people in my own life. I may have the best of intentions. You may have the best of intentions. That doesn't necessarily mean we can always be there for each other. We can try, but we may not always be able to. This is why it's so important to have a relationship with the divine. This is why it's so important to have a relationship with yourself. This is why it's so important to be okay in your own company. And if you're not okay in your own company, if you're lonely in your own company, then you need to take some time to spend with yourself. Take yourself out to movies, date yourself, write poetry, write books, reflect back on the things you come through, the things that you have overcome. Celebrate who you are because you're a fucking kick-ass person. And when you know that and you understand that, you're in good company and you're always supported. You're always supported if you know that. So I will leave you with that. I hope you are having a wonderful week and a wonderful month. And do check back. There are more audio videos coming and maybe some videos coming. You can also follow me on Instagram at nicoleintuitive or Facebook also under nicoleintuitive. And for readings and more, visit me on the web at www.nicolebowman.biz. Always remember to live your light, live your bliss, and love yourself.